Good morning. It's great to see you all here today, and I'd like to ask you to please stand for the presentation of colors. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Order! Lamp!
You may be seated. Please join me in thanking the Coeur d'Alene firefighter pipes and drums and honor guard. And now please bow your heads for our invocation. Lord God, we thank you for this opportunity to gather and connect with our friends, colleagues, and business associates. Help us to seek your guidance each and every day. Give us your ears to listen intently to the needs of our community, your heart to respond generously, and your courage to lead boldly. Please bless all the employees and individuals who serve our city, and please bless this food to our bodies. In your name we pray, amen. Well, today, guys, we have a special day. We're here to celebrate our beautiful city and to hear from our fearless leader, Mayor Hammond. As we begin the program today, I want to start by honoring all those who work for and serve our city. If you are here with the city of Coeur d'Alene, would you please stand? And let's give them all a giant round of applause. So today I have the honor of introducing a very special leader in our community. Mayor Jim Hammond was raised in Missoula, Montana. His work experience began early, working for the Coca-Cola bottling plant from 4th grade until out of high school. He received his Bachelor of Arts at Carroll College, a Master of Education Administration at Whitworth College, and then furthered his public administration studies through the University of Idaho. Jim worked in education administration as an elementary school principal in Washington and Idaho. Since 1976, he has served the residents of Kootenai County as Idaho State Senator and Mayor of Post Falls, President of City Council, and Commissioner for Planning and Zoning in Post Falls. He is certified as an International City Manager Association credentialed manager and served both as Post Falls City and the Coeur d'Alene City Administrator. As you can tell, Jim has dedicated his life to collaborative government, ensuring community safety, and building unified cities via his roles in government and his position on numerous state and local boards. Jim and his beautiful wife, Cindy, I forgot to mention talented artist, Cindy, have 3 sons and 6 grandchildren. He has been a resident of Idaho and Kootenai County since 1973. Throughout his life, he has successfully brought people together to solve problems employing unique strengths of individuals and the collective wisdom of our community. He has a huge heart for our community, and I'm very grateful to call him my friend. Please join me in welcoming Mayor Jim Hammond.
Well, first of all, thank you, Linda, and thank you, Chamber, for allowing me the opportunity to share some wonderful information about our city. Thank you for serving salad rather than meatloaf and mashed potatoes so people can stay awake. Thank you to our fire guys for that wonderful presentation of the flag. I have a few introductions I need to make. The first one is my wife, Dr. Cindy Hammond. Would you please stand? They ought to know at least one of us looks good. And I would like to introduce my counsel. Counsel Kiki Miller. Did she make it back? She's still in Acapulco? That dirty rat. Christy Wood, please stand up so people can see. Amy Evans. Dan Gookin. Woody McEvers. And Dan English. So this is the state of our city, and when you look at the fire trucks, you see City of Excellence on those fire trucks. And so I would say the state of our city is excellent. So thank you very much. But you're not going to buy that? Well, I was trying to come up with something a little different, and thanks to Troy and Renata and Sherry Baticher, they helped me put together some more interesting facts that you might not know about our departments. And I'm going to start with our 2 public safety departments, although a lot of our different folks work on public safety. Our fire department starts with our fire chief, Tom Greif, and the fire department is seeing a substantial increase in EMS responses versus fires. And that's a good thing. And that's a good thing because what we have done is we have improved our building standards so we don't have fires like we used to. Our Coeur d'Alene Fire Department is an all-hazards fire department, and what that means is that they respond to medical emergencies, vehicle accidents, water rescues, technical rescues. I asked what that was. That's having to climb up to rescue someone up a cliff or a building. Hazardous materials incidents, and that's becoming more of an issue. Backcountry rescues, elevator rescues, active shooter incidents, and of course fire alarms. But EMS responses take up almost 80% of the call volume within the city. And one of the things that's important about that is that we now have acquired through our county EMS, thank you, Commissioner, a third ambulance called Medic 4, which is at Station 4 at Hanley and Atlas. This is important because we're adding to our ability to respond to medical emergencies. We do have a new boat facility, and if you'll notice, if you go down to 3rd Street to the 3rd Street docks, you can see that new facility. We also have mutual aid agreements through the fire department for the entire lake and all the different fire agencies and rescue agencies around the county. The fire department also does a lot of public education, community outreach, and this is a high priority. And it's a high priority because of the fact that we need our community to be more informed on issues such as CPR, AED, Narcan usage, and just first aid. So our fire department is an integral part of how we ensure the community is better aware because, for instance, heart attacks are one of the most common issues. We need to be able to respond as a citizen until our medical people can get there. Fire department also works with NIC at their Workforce Training Center. They work with schools and others to help with instruction and the purchase of such things as AEDs. They do fire and rescue. We have disaster dogs, and they work a canine research and rescue team with other members of the department and with other people throughout the state. They have been called to national emergencies around the country. Move on to police, the other side of that, and Chief White leads our police department. Crime in Coeur d'Alene is at historic lows. Yay! That's really a big deal. I'll tell you why. Our population in 2022 was about 58,000. There were 728 Part 1 crimes. Now those are homicide, aggravated assault, arson, burglary, robbery, that kind of crime. Now for comparison, in 1999, there were 2,229 Part 1 crimes. So that's a hell of a drop. That was for a city of roughly 34,000. And since implementation of the intelligence-led policing model in late 2014, Part 1 crime has been reduced by 65%. And all of this I look over at those guys and they're all just sober over there. Enjoy the accolades, gentlemen. All this is a direct result of the hard work from the men and women in uniform. So thank you very much. We take our police and fire for granted, but you need to know that when that patrolman steps out of that car, he doesn't know and he can't assess all of the dangers that may be present or not. It's a risk. It's not one I'd be willing to take, and it's important that we recognize that for those folks that are out there on the road. Police is also involved in community engagement, and in fact, one of the things that we can be proud of is these guys here are so well trained that they provide 75% of the training for post-certification. They also work in public safety. They go downtown and they work with the taverns and the restaurateurs to ensure that everybody in the community has a safe and enjoyable time in our downtown. And they provide ambassadors during the height of the tourist season. Now, something that is important, and we talk about crime reduction, is the work that they do in terms of a weekly crime analysis report and a map that actually shows where the crimes are occurring. And so if we have a high propensity of crime in an area, they know to focus on that area. And so they are really tracking and paying attention to what's happening in our community. They also do block watch program. And that's something that if you don't use in your neighborhood, you should. I think it's really important for us to play that role in protecting ourselves. Streets and engineering. This is always a challenge. Thank you to our Superintendent Todd Fouchier and City Engineer Chris Bosley. They lead this ragtag, goofy guys. They're a lot of fun. And I see you came back in. They were outside in the smoker's corner and told them they had to come back in. We are working really hard on our streets, and the challenge with streets is that unlike the other infrastructure, sewer and water, you collect a fee for that so you can make sure you keep up. It's not as easy with streets, and streets is expensive. So we're working to preserve street surfaces by sealing the streets so that water can't get in and break them up. And this year we've dedicated $1.5 million just to that effort. And we want to continue to put enough money into our streets so that we can be sure that it's not just an issue of comfort, it's an issue of safety, it's an issue of commerce. We need to have good streets for people to be able to travel back and forth to work, to shop, and certainly for emergency vehicles as they move around town. One of the other things that you need to know about that is that in efforts such as street sealing, the city of Coeur d'Alene works with people like East Side Highway District. We share equipment, we do that kind of work for each other.
From your wife.
Oh, thanks. You know, my mouth is dry. I think it's getting old. Old is really hard. I was noticing the other day about, I was taking my shoes off and I was thinking, well, let's see. I can sit down on this low little stool that's in the closet and take my shoes off. Or maybe I can just stand up and be on one leg and then I don't have to get up. You know, I can just stay up. Or like one day Cindy says to me, because I was leaning over tying my shoes and looked like I was, and she says, "What are you doing?" And I said, "Well, as long as I'm down here, I'm trying to think of anything else I can do before I get up." So thank you for your patience with me. So they do work with other folks so that we can utilize equipment and we're not having to double up on equipment when we can borrow each other's equipment. And that's really good. Streets Department also works on stormwater. And you may not think that's a big deal, but originally we just let all that water drain into the lake. And that water has salt in it from what we do in the winter with streets. It has oil in it from leaky cars. So we have worked real hard, in fact, through swales. I know we don't always love the swales, but that keeps the water out of the lake. And we have substantially diminished the amount of stormwater that flows into our lake, and we'll continue to do it to the point where we don't have any of our stormwater flowing in the lake anymore. And we're getting close. I'm really proud of that. The street department does its own, makes its own de-icer, the wet stuff that they spray on the roads. And any other agency that wants it, they can buy it from us just for our cost. Another way to save money. I'll move on to our water department, headed up by Superintendent Terry Pickle. And I promised I wouldn't make a joke about water being in a pickle. Terry and his guys really work hard to protect our aquifer because it is a sole source. And they have also made sure that we work on water rights adjudication. And if you don't know what that is, we, through the courts, adjudicate our water rights to ensure that our water rights don't erode and get lost to somebody else. And it's important for us because we've got another larger entity just to the west of us who shares that aquifer. So we want to make sure that we protect our water rights as we move forward. But we also work at promoting water conservation through public education and through training opportunities. I know that Terry goes all over the Northwest because he is so recognized for his skills in his understanding of how to manage water, how to provide water, and how to conserve water. So we have some really sharp people there. Wastewater, well, we used to call that the sewer plant. Mike Anderson is our superintendent for wastewater, and it's really amazing what we are doing. And that group of folks is very passionate about what they do. You know, you don't think about it because you just let the drain flow and then flush the toilet and it's not your problem anymore. But we have to make sure that all that flows well, and so they're out working, cleaning lines all the time and making sure that they that the water and the wastewater gets to the plant, and that we remove all of the stuff that we don't want to let go into the river. So they remove an incredible amount of nutrients. Well, this is really significant as well. In 2018, this plant of ours was discharging 25 pounds of phosphorus. Now, phosphorus is, you use it to fertilize your yard, but you don't want it in your water. And ammonia, also a fertilizer, put 775 pounds a day into the river. Today, due to upgrades and due to better management, we discharge 3 pounds of phosphorus per day and 1 pound of ammonia. That is significant. That, my friends, is being cognizant and aware of our environment, our natural resources, and doing our best to take care of them. The water, the effluent we call it, but the water that we put back into the river is cleaner than the water in the river. Now, what's good to hear is that this isn't just Coeur d'Alene. Every treatment facility, from Post Falls to Spokane Valley to Spokane, we are all working on making sure that our effluent is that way. And our effluent limits are the lowest of anywhere in the country. So that ensures that we take care of our lake and the Spokane River and its flow into the Columbia. We also do compost. Not another exciting thing to talk about, but Christy knows what I'm going to say. 2 years ago, Christy went over, because what was it, last week? You go get the free compost. You can get as much as you want. And Christy grew some tomatoes, and I'm not a big tomato fan, but those were the best damn tomatoes I ever had. I kept asking her for more because they were fantastic. But isn't that a wonderful way to take the solids that we have and use them and recycle them, and they become a benefit rather than something that we would be putting in the ground to fill the landfill? So next year, when you hear about that and you think, I don't want any of that, it's wonderful stuff for your lawn or for your garden. And Woody, I'm not going to use your term. Now, you can tell him afterwards what that term is. Community planning. When you talk about community planning, you think about planning and zoning. But our planning department is working really hard, and they have been a part of a partnership that is called the Regional Housing and Growth Issues Partnership. Thank you, Councilman Miller, who's not here, and Ms. Patterson, because they are working really hard on an issue that is important to our community, and that's housing. I would have never thought, when we first began working on Jobs Plus and trying to bring new employers to our community, one of the selling points was how affordable housing was in North Idaho. In fact, that's what brought me here years ago, was affordable housing. Well, they're working now on ways trying to solve this problem. They work with elected officials, appointed officials, planning officials, Kootenai County, the cities, KMPO, which is our transportation planning organization, Habitat for Humanity, Idaho Housing and Finance, Panhandle Affordable Housing Alliance, and United Way. There are over 40 organizations working on this, and it is an issue that reaches from physicians to hospitality workers. We are losing people in every sector because they want to come, but when they start looking at the cost of housing, they say, I can't afford it. It doesn't work, it doesn't pencil for me. So I am very appreciative of those organizations working to try to find solutions, and that certainly they're long-term. They're not something that comes overnight. And then we have, out of that, a new organization called the Regional Housing and Growth Issues Partnership, called Connect Kootenai, which formerly was CDA 2030. So CDA 2030 has changed from that Coeur d'Alene-centric organization to an organization that's going to focus county-wide, because the housing issue is county-wide. Now, we have been able to do some things relative to that with regard to Coeur. I know there were some folks that were concerned about bringing that in, but if you limit housing, what does that do? That just pushes the cost up even more, and we don't want to do that. We don't want to be the ones responsible for that. Now, this annexation includes a mix of housing, including 5% for sale and 5% for rent housing that's deed restricted to ensure some affordable housing. It's not huge, but it's a start. But this project also contains 17 acres of park space and trails, and it also provides for the schools a 10-acre school site for an elementary school and a 20-acre school site for a middle school. And that's substantial in helping the school districts as they grow. Our building department, the ones that issue permits and come out and check the housing and have helped us to ensure that our housing is safe and doesn't catch on fire. I wanted to share something about them, and that they are led by Ted Lancy. He doesn't want to be called director or superintendent, so it's just Ted. And what I wanted to show here was that I've heard terms such as rampant growth, crazy growth. Well, you take a look at that slide, and it's not even the best, but when you look over the past 5 years, and we didn't have a slide for it, but in 2022, the number of permits issued has gone down substantially for both single-family and duplex units by 40%. These are the lowest numbers since 2018, and 2023 is tracking even lower. So when people tell you that we're growing at a terrible rate, that's not true. Multifamily permits are also down. And overall, it illustrates that we are still growing, but at a more conservative and healthy rate. Commercial permits are pretty much steady, and that's good too. You want to continue those commercial permits. We need that balance to help make school levies and taxes affordable for everyone, because we share that load, commercial, industrial, and residential. The administration department is led by our city administrator, Troy Tymason. Troy provides oversight and guidance to all city departments. He acts as a liaison to many city boards and is the city's representative for a number of community partner organizations. There he is. Isn't he wonderful? I told you I'd do something. Can't always be serious. Can't take ourselves too seriously. The city's legal department is led by City Attorney Randall Adams. I've never called him Randall. It's always Randy. He's a real Randy guy, you know. His legal team is divided into two divisions. We have a civil division and a prosecutorial division. And one of the things that I appreciate about them is their prosecutorial and civil division are joined and working together to make sure that we meet all of our legal needs, number one. And number two, that they work very hard on the working to decrease all domestic violence. And folks, we still have some concerns there, and we need to do whatever we can to decrease that number. And I appreciate very much that that is a central focus for them. So thank you very much for that. Our finance department is led by Comptroller Vonnie Jensen. And one of the things that you need to know is the city collects a substantial sum of funds that we don't spend right away. And so the city invests those funds, some of those funds locally, in local banks and credit unions so that we can help contribute and support to our local economy while still getting a good return on our investment. Those funds are then available to help businesses and consumers as they borrow that money for their purposes. That also helps these financial institutions employ local citizens and pay their property taxes and their other taxes. Human resources. This is led by Director Melissa Tosi, and she has a staff of 3. Big department. But they have a big job. And as any of you employers know, human relations, public relations, human resources, all of that can really get you into hot water easily. And we very much appreciate their effort. You know, the last year they hired 96 employees. Now, I don't want you to think we added 96 because we didn't. But a lot of our employees are seasonal and they're part-time employees. And right now, as any of you who are employers know, it isn't the easiest time to put people to work. So they did a magnificent job in getting people to work for the city. And in fact, our PD last year was down, was it 14, Chief? 14 patrolmen. Now, for a city of our size, that's significant. And hopefully, if all these people true out, we might fill up all those vacancies. That department manages 3 different collective bargaining agreements with city employee groups. And they publish what is called the City Municipal Milestones newsletter. And you, too, can get a subscription to this just by asking. What used to be called the City Clerk's Department is now Municipal Services and IT. And Director Renata McLeod manages those folks. Now that department issues all of the licenses and permits, as well as responding to public records requests. They issued over 1,454 business licenses, 676 individual licenses, completed 298 public records requests, and 14 video redactions. That's hard to do, where you have to, if somebody wants a video from PD, and you have to pull out what you can't share. IT also manages 650 workstations, as well as maintaining servers, monitors, desktop software, conference room equipment, the network, and the phone system. And most importantly, the Osprey cameras. If you've not watched those, it really is fun. At one of the nests up there, we've got a mom and dad getting ready to have some children. So it's fun to watch that as they lay their eggs and hatch them. Our library is led by Director Michael Priest. And the library has many community partners. They do outreach with the school district, North Idaho College, with daycares and senior centers. They do programs called the Born Reading Program with Kootenai Health, Story Walk at Higgins Point with the Idaho Department of Parks and Rec, and Saturdays with the Coeur d'Alene Symphony Orchestra. We as a city are very supportive of our library. By law, the library has their own separate board, and although they're appointed, they run that library on their own. And we very much support what they do, and we support their opportunity to provide a diverse collection of materials for everyone. Park and Rec is led by Director Bill Greenwood, and they were successful in partnering with Active Solutions on donations of exercise equipment at Riverstone Park, partners with Kootenai Health to provide swim lessons for the community, partners with special needs to provide wonderful opportunities for special needs children. They did something really unique. They have worked with the county on finding grants to make sure that we work to reduce fuels on areas like Tubbs Hill to ensure that we don't have fires there, to improve the mooring docks that we have at 3rd Street. And they bought a portable sawmill. And they take some of the timber that we have, mill it into lumber, and they've used that to build benches and portable restroom structures. That's pretty cool. We're taking our own city wood and putting it back into another use right within the community. I want to talk a little bit about what we've accomplished over the years. Not anything that I did, and I don't mean that. But we have an urban renewal district. It's called Ignite Coeur d'Alene, and they have had 3 districts, River, Atlas, and Health Corridor District. The Lake District closed on December 31st. But the accomplishments are important to recognize, and that is McEwen Park, the Skateboard Park, the Croc Center, the Education Corridor, Riverstone, Atlas Waterfront. These projects gave the community more parkland and waterfront space for future generations that we can all enjoy, and especially, most recently, the 4,000 feet of new public waterfront space. I wanted to show you some before and after pictures because there was a lot of angst about McEwen Park. And quite frankly, it had a softball field and a baseball field. And for those people that used it, it was great. But that really limited the use and benefit to the community. And now we have a park that very seldom doesn't have a lot of people in it because there's so many different fun opportunities for people to enjoy. It is a beautiful place to go. I love to take my younger grandchildren there. It's really fun. I want to go to Riverstone and look at what Riverstone is. And unfortunately, we don't have the picture of what the mill left it like because it looks even worse than that. But I remember coming into Coeur d'Alene on Northwest Boulevard and driving by that site because that was the first mill to shut down. And it sat there for probably 15, 20 years, not generating revenue, not being a contributor to the community. And what we have now is we have a substantially larger tax base And that benefits everybody. It benefits the county, it benefits the school district, it benefits the city. We have retail and other kinds of operations. We have a lot of medical there. I just went to a doctor's appointment there yesterday. And so instead of that mill generating probably $2,000 for taxes, we're talking now millions of dollars that benefits everyone. And what's important is that then for you and I as residential homeowners share a smaller load of all those taxes that we support for all the entities. And that's important to recognize. And then the Atlas Mill is kind of a similar picture. I've heard some complaints. Oh, all they're building is high-end homes down there, and it's only great for the really rich people. Well, that proximity to water certainly lends itself to that. But the real value of that part that is residential development is that is going to reimburse the city for all the money that we spent to buy that property in the first place. And I should say we, which was a partnership with Ignite Coeur d'Alene. But we'll get all that money returned as we sell those properties and they are developed. And what we get out of that is all that waterfront property that otherwise would have been absorbed, as you've seen elsewhere, by individual residents. Instead, that's something that's open for everyone. So I think that is a substantial achievement, and that is the work of several previous administrations going forward, and thank you for that. Another delightful experience that I had when I first took over was the arts. We heard some very big concerns about a couple pieces of art. Well, determining good art from bad art is certainly in the eye of the beholder. The value of art in the community, though, is not in dispute. Public art has been identified and quantified as a major contributor to the economy of a community, particularly a resort community. So I want to send this thank you out to our Coeur d'Alene Arts Commission. I want to thank the Coeur d'Alene Arts and Culture Alliance, because together they have worked to bring more art to our community. Some of that art is in the form of music and concerts. Some of it is in the form of visual arts. But nevertheless, when I travel, I love to see the art in other communities. And we should enjoy that here as well. It's something that brings people here. And if you're a fan of the concerts that happen at Riverstone, we have good news in that the Arts and Cultural Alliance was able to raise funds to put a shade structure so that the poor performers would not bake in the sun that's shining in from the west. What do they call that? The oven stage? Or it's really a tough place to perform. So starting this year, we'll have them under shade. So that's a wonderful contribution that we make. And I have always been a supporter of having art in the community. So what are our challenges? And I feel like I've really gone on here. I apologize. You're really very patient. Thank you. Short-term rentals. It's a hard balance to strike, but somehow working with neighborhoods, working with owners of STR, short-term rentals, we have to come up with a solution. And one of my colleagues on the council, who lives in the fort grounds, is living in a 2-block street with 6 STRs. Well, when you move into a neighborhood, you move in to be with neighbors, with people with whom you can develop friendship, not someone who's going to be there for a week or two. Not that It's not that we don't want those people here, but that is a concern, and that disrupts the integrity of what single-family residential neighborhood should be. So we have to, that's a challenge for us. We still have to resolve that. And if somebody has a magic solution, we'd pay dearly for it. What's interesting is most recently we've added a lot of parking downtown. And you know what? We're filling all of that. And so by summer season, it's really getting tight. So that's another challenge for us. We need to find a way to create more downtown parking. But we also need to put more money into streets. I think I noticed this more, and my wife loves the fact that I'll be talking about cracks in the street. She finds it extremely interesting. Not. But once they fall apart, they're extremely expensive to repair. So we need to continue to put money in that program so that we take care of our streets. Overall, though, we're doing pretty well. But we do have some community challenges. The viability, the availability, and the sustainability of a local college is essential for those seeking an education beyond high school. You heard me refer earlier to the higher education corridor. Now we have University of Idaho here, we have Lewis Clark State College here, we have North Idaho College here, we have a little bit of ISU up here. But the thing is, well, Cindy's a good example. She got her doctorate in leadership all up here. She didn't have to go down on the campus. That's a hell of a deal. When I just wanted to get a master's, I had to drive all the way up to the north end of Spokane. That is essential for our economic development and for our economic stability, and we can't afford to lose that. And Nick, God bless you. And he is so much more braver than I for sticking it out, being severely underappreciated by a board. Thank you very much. We need to really recognize that Nick and Nikki are staying here and sticking it out. Thank you very much for doing that. Thank you also for all those folks, and I saw some of them here, who are standing up for our community. We're saying this isn't right, we won't tolerate it, and we will fight to maintain our local institutions. That is essential. I think of this song, it keeps going through my head. It's one that was originally made by Simon and Garfunkel, The Sound of Silence. And in that song, it talks about we don't dare break that silence, that we worship the neon gods. And as I think about that, I think, damn it, we need to break that silence, all of us. We can't depend on anybody else. We all have to break that silence, and we have to be a voice. You know, the other part of education is public education that was free was a new idea when our country was founded. But our forefathers were smart enough to know if you're going to have a democratic republic, if you're going to let your citizens take a role in how they are governed, they have to be able to read and write and understand how government works. So we are all beneficiaries of a free and equal public education. And I was thinking about this relative to the levy. You know, everything else that we do is not like running a school where every year or 2 years you got to go out and beg for enough money to operate your schools. And yes, schools are more expensive because we now recognize how difficult it is to educate children and all the different kinds of needs that children have. And it was a lot easier when we did the factory model where everybody went through and they all got the exact same teaching and you either made it or you didn't. But we have moved as a country and as a culture beyond that to recognize that we need to give an opportunity for success to all of our students. Hell, I was one of them. I wasn't a great student. Along those lines, I want to recognize the Coeur d'Alene tribe because the chamber was doing a little scholarship program, and I'm sure Linda did a little arm twisting here and there and pleading, but they really broadened and widened that program to make it possible for doubling the number of students who got a scholarship and doubling the amount of the scholarship. Now it's at $2,000. And they also offer an additional grant for those students who are going on their second year. So, in fact, you know, if you think about our country and the tribe and how our forefathers treated the tribes, and even some to this day, it's amazing they even talk to us. But instead, they work with us and they support us, and we work together for the betterment of the community. Isn't that really something? We had a recent levy election failure. And, okay, you have a right to express your opinion, and you have a right to say no. Part of our challenge is North Idaho, particularly, is receiving more old folks like me. No, they're older than me. But they aren't necessarily supportive of spending more money on schools. But I guarantee you that if we do better than what we did in that election the other day, which was under 28%, I think we would see that we have a more supportive set of patrons than what that showed. But all of you as employers, as mothers and fathers, grandfathers, you need to make sure that everybody votes, because it's not just a privilege, it's also a responsibility. Housing will still be an issue, and I appreciate all those groups that are continuing to work on that, because we can't effectively recruit and retain employers if their employees can't afford to live here. Lake water protection, that's also just as essential and important. We have to be vigilant. We can no longer just say, oh, that happened back in the mining days. It's still an issue, and we still have to be vigilant, because that is one of our jewels, and we have to protect that jewel. Again, the Coeur d'Alene tribe has been a major partner in protecting Lake Coeur d'Alene. And again, I very much appreciate those efforts. As you saw from some of those slides, we have come a long way over the years. And our quality of life actually has improved substantially. Years ago, when I was in Post Falls, we would stand on the corner of Spokane Street and Celtus Way waving these signs. And more recently, I thought, you know, because I'm a real car guy. I can't fix it worth a damn, but I love cars. And I'm saying, you know, the quality of cars around here has really improved. You see Would you ever believe we've had a Maserati dealership in Coeur d'Alene? It's just amazing. But we have to continue to be involved in making sure that what we do is support that life. It won't happen. And our culture, who we are, what David Gross said. And I would say to you that we are the heart and soul of this community. We own this community. We own this culture. And it is up to us to save that and retain it. Thank you very much.
Wow, I just want to say thank you. Thank you to the mayor. Thank you to all of you who are serving in our city. Thank you for your courage to lead boldly. This year, our board has worked really hard to do a bit of strategic planning exercises. And we have identified some new core values for the Coeur d'Alene Regional Chamber. And I'd like to share them with you today. The first one is to connect authentically. The second one is to listen intently. The third one, respond generously. And the fourth one, to lead courageously. And I just want to say, Mr. Mayor, what you and all of the people who are serving our city are doing all of those, and we couldn't be more proud to be great partners of the city, so thank you for what you do. There's so many things that I took away from your conversation, and I think some of the words that really stood out to me, first and foremost, is leadership. But collaboration, I listened to a lot of the words that you said, and you and the people on your team are incredible collaborators with so many different agencies and organizations and businesses in our community. I heard words like preservation, and I think about how, what an impossible task that you have to balance this incredible growth that we're facing in our region with the concept of preserving all of the natural resources and the beauty that we all hold so dear. So there's incredible balancing that I see going on in the city. Innovation, fiscal responsibility, and overall impact. And so thank you for taking the time and being courageous and leaning in and lifting up your hood and giving us the opportunity to see some of the challenges that people who serve our city are facing. And then also giving us the opportunity to celebrate all of the amazing accomplishments of your entire team. So thank you again. And as we leave here this morning and face different challenges that may arise throughout the day, I wanted to leave you with a reminder of the opportunity that each of us has to make a positive difference in our community. And I just want to read two quotes that really spoke to me this morning as I was thinking about this afternoon. The first one is from Bob Carey, and his words are, "Unexpected kindness is the most powerful, least costly, and most underrated agent of human change." And the second one from Margaret Mead, "Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it is the only thing that ever has." Thank you all for coming today, and make this a beautiful day.